we can change the value of a state variable as well as using this dot state. We can create the state variable, and whenever you change the value of a state variable, automatically render function will be called back, and whichever the changes will happen, it will apply in the browser. Next, we can create one more file called class2.js. Create next file class2.js. We can do import of React and then component class. Coming down, not constant. You have to write a class name, my class2, extends component, come down, export you can do, export to default, then my class2. Inside that, we can go here and we can create a constructor. In constructor, we can use this dot state. First, you have to write super function. This dot state equal to square bracket. You can get here and create a variable called user list as one array. One more you can create book list, another array. When you create a item list, one more array. Create one more call API data list. Four array. In that, 3 array will be the local file, local data, and 1 array will come from somewhere else. Right. Next, after that, we can store some 3-4 user under the username. Okay. Book name, we can store some data again. This becomes a nested array, array inside array. A state is a predefined global variable, global array of your component class. Inside, you are creating multiple object, city list, book list, item list, API data, and all are going to hold as a single dimensional array. Some can hold multi-dimensional array also. This one API data. We are defining here variable, but in this data will come from somewhere else. You can add some book name as a HTML. Then this, then script, script. Script, jQuery, okay, item list, you can store something. Apple, mail, food, laptop. Okay, we store some details here. Now API data will be empty. So this three array we got, three array will print first. Come after the constructor, write a function called render function. This render function is going to help you to return constructor is okay. Constructor I can close here. It should be out of constructor. Render return. Div class name. You can use container with the empty5, empty for anything. Division. Class name is row. Division. Class name call -lg -3 336 3932. Okay, so we can come to the first three and print the length of user list. It's three available users. Available users. This dot state dot user list dot length. this dot state dot user list dot length. Okay, same time we can use the map also here and read the data from user array and display in paragraph. This dot state dot user list dot map, name of the user as well as index of user.
Or on local variable inside this component,
Local variable,
like we are storing, we are using this dot state dot variable. So instead of this, can
you can create a constant, create a constant and store there, or define the variable outside and assign the value here. You can use here instead of storing under the state. But if you will not store under the state, what will happen is you cannot track the each and every activity of the variable. Suppose you change the value of a variable here. Previous example, what we saw, we change the value of a variable. Immediately once we change, it was printing in the browser. How it was printing in the browser? Because once you modify the value, once you modify the value, then at the time of modification, automatically what will get called? Render function. Reason is render function is a callback function of which function? No, set state function. When we call the set state function, what it will do? Set state function will modify the state variable, and at the same time, while modifying the state variable, it will, as soon as the state variable will get modified, it will call your which one? Callback will happen, render. Now under the state, whichever the variable is modified, the variable got changed, render will call. Now render will change, reflect the original updated value. Now suppose you modify the variable and render will not call, then what will happen? It will not reflect in the browser. So this is the variable. This is the variable. In that we add a new element. After adding the new element, or maybe under the user list, if I add a new element, after adding a new element, what will happen? It should reflect in the browser. Then only user will understand, yes, value is added. If your browser is not refreshing, then what will happen? The user will understand the value is not added at all. Okay. So in that case, how to refresh the browser? Question is here, how to refresh the browser? To refresh the browser, we have to call the render function at any cost, right or not? We have to call the render function at any cost. When we call the render function at any cost, we have to call it, right? So manually, you are not going to call the render function. Render function will be called by whom? Set state automatically. Because of that, under the class component or functional component, when we create a variable and we want to track each and every status of the variable, we use which one? The state management. Okay. Like this. So we wrote here this dot state dot user list dot map name plus index. Name plus index. Return in a paragraph. Key I have given, class name text primary I have given, index and name both I am printing. So when we call this component, it will give me the list of users.
Hey, phone.
Okay, hope ready. Now come to the app.js file. They need to call this file and we'll see after adding into the routing, are we getting or not?
Okay. Okay. Bro, what if we do it in laptop? There will be less, no? For that. I don't know that one.
Okay, so hope map is ready. You can call this file under app.js file, class2.js, and it should read the data and display. Class2.js, we can add here my class2, my class2, my class2.js. Class2 I can see here. If I click on that, I can see the list of users are coming. Check now. Are you able to see that list of users? Same way, you can run the loop for the book plus item list and check once is it coming or not. List happen. Hope you can write the loop for the second call G3 as well. User list replaced by book list. Books, book list map. In the third block, you can print similar way. Items, item list, name and index everywhere we can print. It will give us the length as well as total number of elements available inside the array. Loop will come. Something like this. So from one array, you are able to read multiple items, not one array. Array is only one, but the objects are different. This dot state is one array, whereas item list is one object, book list is another object. Okay, so hope ready. Next, we need to bring some data from other source. We need to bring the data from other source. So we can print the length here first. We can print the length here. Call h3 API data dot length. API data dot length. API data dot length. API data dot length, how much? 0. Go up now. And we can write a function to bring the data from other source and print here. So let's come up and write another function. Write another function. Get user arrow method. Inside that, we are going to bring some list of users from other source. List of user from other source. I will share the URL we have implemented in the functional component already. This URL is coming to your chat. URL is available under the chat. You can call here h next. After that dot, then we can apply here. response will come from there. Response.json. Second when function will give you the content user array. User array. Keep a alert here. User array dot length. User array dot length. User array dot length. So whenever we call the get user function, sit now after writing this, are we getting the length anywhere? Alert will not come because the function we are not calling. Okay, this function alert is coming or not? Function alert will not come because still we have not called the function. We have to call this function. So there is a two option. If you want to call this function on load, if you want to call the function on load, you have to use a life cycle function. If you want to call the function on button click, then you can create a button and button click and call this function directly. Okay. So button click we can do easily through life cycle method. How to do? Let's come. Right here one function called component did mount. Component did mount. Component did mount. Inside that, you can keep a alert first. Did mount is one alert. Under the render also keep the alert. Keep a render. RENDER. Under the constructor also keep the alert. Constructor, render, and then component did mount. Now three function we have. All three places we apply the alert. Save your file and see the sequence. Save the file and see the sequence. Sequence. See, first is if I refresh the page, constructor, render, did mount. Okay, constructor, render, did mount. So constructor will call, it will create an array. Render will call, it will generate the HTML. User will get engaged. Component did mount will come. Component did mount will call the function. Component did mount will call the function. This dot get user. Now this function will bring the data and give to whom? A state. And a state will update the render function again. Constructor will come, it will create the variable. Next, render will come, it will generate the HTML. Next, after that, component did mount will come, it will call the array. 1 minute. Hello. Okay, alert is coming. Done. Now array will give you the length once we run the page. And then see, length is coming how many? 10. So the flow is like this. The first step, what will happen is, let me write here. Step number 1. Step number 1. Array defined. Where? Under the constructor. Step number 2. Render. In render, what will happen? HTML ready. Step number 3. Did mount. Component did mount. Component did mount, what it will call now? Component did mount will call the API call. In component did mount, we did here call function calling. This function call will do the API call. Now after API call, data will come. After API call, data will come. This data will give to again a state. This data will give under the state. Let me bring this one in the new line. Component did mount will happen. Component did mount will, API call will happen. API call will bring the data and this data will give to the state. Once you give the data to a state, after that what will happen? Again render will call. Render will call and after calling that HTML will reload. Correct? HTML will reload in the sense what? Render will happen, HTML will be reload. Means your output will be ready. So how many steps? 3 steps. Variable first must be defined. After that, HTML also should be ready, placeholder where we want to pass the data. Second, we have to bring the data. And the fourth, we have to give to whom? A state. And a state already, once you give the data to a state, your render will call. And once the render will call, render will look into the state, data is modified or not. If data is modified, then what will happen? Reload will happen. Now suppose in this process, if array is not defined and render has called, data came and given to a state. So where you will store under the state? Variable is not exist, right? That is the meaning of what? Life cycle. Everything should be step by step. Before going to the +2, 10th must be clear, right? That is called what? Life cycle. The person has called me just now. He was looking for job. He has not cleared the +2 still. He is still under the 10th. 10th he is clear. Now what is that? He is not eligible. That meaning he has to follow what? Life cycle method. Life cycle method, whoever has made, they have made the structure, and based on that, they have made, okay, if you are following these steps, then now if suppose someone asks what is the life cycle method, what will answer? We can answer under the React life cycle method will support to execute of your program systematically. For example, variables should defined. Next, data should come. Next, reassign to update to variable. Next, loop should run. This is called what? Steps. And this come under what? Life cycle. In that, some function execute in the beginning for some reason. For example, constructor will execute in the beginning. What is the reason? To define the variables. Second, next what will happen? Render will call, because we have to make user busy as well. If render will not call, what will happen? User will feel like nothing come. So variables should define and length should say, okay, please wait loading. Right? After some time, once the data will come, the same period, please wait loading will get replaced by something else. Come now. So life cycle methods are those methods, those functions that support to execute your program step by step in the sequence. Life cycle functions are those functions that is given by React, and that will help you to execute your program in sequence step by step. There you can say, for example, constructor to create the variable, render to generate the HTML, component did mount to load after execution, to load on load, to call on load. Okay. Similar way, if you modify the value under the component did update will call. Component did mount will come when? In the beginning, first stage. Okay, suppose I went here, and my page loaded. Data came as a 10. So that is called as what? Component did mount. Means the page was loaded. After that, suppose data will come here. Data will come from where? State. Now, if I delete one record, that time you are not going to call the API. You are deleting the record from where? From your array. Array is the part of state. Now what you modified? You modify the state. So when page has loaded, that time component did mount happen, and when you modify the data under the state, that time component did update happen. Component update happen. So when update will happen, different function will call. When page load will happen, different function will call.
That time, this component did not will
It will execute only one time. On page load. It is called on page load. Okay. But whenever you do modification under the component, every time component did update will call. Okay. Update meaning is what? When update is happening, that time. But mount will happen when? Only one time. And update will happen multiple times. Now come here. This data we have to give to whom? State. So we'll remove the alert and we'll write here this dot set state. This dot set state. Under the set state, we have a called API data. Under the API data, we will assign the user array. Just here it's assignment only. We are not doing A equal to A plus B. API data was empty. Under the API data, we assign here the content. What content? The complete as a array. Now API data will have some length. So once you run the page, for some time you will find API data length is 0, and after some time it will become as a 10. Okay, hope ready. Check now. Let's come to the browser. For some time it will be 0. After some time it will convert into 10. I'll go to some other component and come back and I'll show you what is happening here. For some time it will be 0. After some time it will become a 10. Next we can go there. Hope is coming, calling or not. Next we can print the name of the user under the last n. Let's go here, use a map function again. You can print only name and maybe phone. Name and phone, two details we can print. So it is called API data dot map. API data dot map, not name. You can write here called info, and then you can write here index is okay, index is also okay. Here we can print here info dot name. Info dot name. Okay, info is the object as of now, and inside the object there is a property called name that you can print. First option, first step constructor, second step render, third step component did mount. Component did mount will execute at last once the page is loaded. Component did mount will bring the data from API and give to a state. After giving to a state will call the render, and the render will reload your list. Render will reload your list. Here should be the output 0. After that 10 will come. For some more time it will show 0, and again after some time it will become a 10. 0, then 10. We go here 0. If we come here, for some time it will be 10. So what difference we have? In the class component, functional component, we write only API data dot length, API data dot map. Here we are writing this dot state dot API data. There we have used as a function called use effect. Use effect. Here we are calling as a component did mount. There we used to call here use state. With the help of use state, we used to create the variable and function. State variable and function. Here this all constructor, component did mount, render, component did update, all belong to this class, called as a component class. So then under the component class, there is many functions are there that people use.
Inside of the API data, can we store another API like
Under API data,
can we store another API? How user and storing inside API?
this is the what you want to do here.
Like Apple, milk,
You want to store here some default value.
no, like one API is storing inside API data.
Hmm.
Can we store like suppose that this API is Apple.
Hmm.
So
You store like this here. That is already have gone through. No, you can write like this. Create here call user and keep the user as empty. Create one more here called product. Okay, product. Keep the product as a empty. Now, when you call the data from here, where you send? You send directly to where? Set state as a API. So instead of sending to the set state as a API data of what? API data of user. Okay, there also we can send API data of user. How we can send here at this place? We have to see again. So, but this is the way we can pass here also, and we can pass here also. But if you ask in the practical way, the data is going to come from here. Data is going to come from here. this data, it is not necessary it will be a single dimensional array, multi-dimensional array. It will be the array inside array, multi-level array, that depend on the backend structure. Okay, so you should not follow this structure. There is no any restriction here at this place here. What you have created here, there is no any restriction. Suppose you have 5 API you have. Okay, 5 API you have. So what is the problem to create here 5 variable like user, product, something. There is no product, no problem. So this become your program is complicated. Instead of creating here, since API is, if API is giving the multiple data, then it will be organized, well organized automatically. Inside the user, there will be, look at here. If I call this user, if I call this particular file here, if I call this particular file here, URL here, it has already nested data. Nested data is there or not? Nested data is there. So if you are keeping this data inside another array, that meaning you are thinking in the very wrong way. You should not keep like that. Your code will become unnecessarily complicated. Okay, but this is also the same. State is the one array. Inside how many you created? User list, book list, item list, and API data. Right under the API data, also you can create a multi-dimensional array. There is no problem at all. Okay. But again, if you are creating, your code will become complicated. Okay. Check now. So hope your list is coming. List is coming. Okay. Now after that, okay, no problem. First come to your code again. Now suppose you can go here. Write one more function here. फर्स्ट फ्लोर में चले जाइए. फर्स्ट फ्लोर का फर्स्ट रूम जो है, यस स्टेप्स के पास जो सीढ़ी है ना, रूम है, उसमें बेल कीजिए. लड़का निकलेगा, उससे पूछ लीजिए कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है. शायद कहीं एक बल्ब नहीं जल रहा है, उसको लाइट के. फर्स्ट हाँ, वही ग्राउंड पार्किंग वाला को हम फर्स्ट फ्लोर को बोलते हैं. ग्राउंड में ग्राउंड. उस छोटा मोटा प्रॉब्लम है, देख लीजिए, तो बताइए फिक्स कर. यूपीएस है ना, यूपीएस पे नहीं होगा तो थोड़ा 1 लीटर उसमें थोड़ा पानी होगा, तो नॉर्मल पानी डाल सकते हैं ना. फिल्टर का पानी है, तो उसको बोल के जो लड़का है ना, वहाँ पे छोटू, उसको बोल के डलवाता, बोलिए कि पानी लाएगा, डाल देगा पीछे. Okay, so go here, and after that, under the component did mount. Okay, under the component did mount, we will call many function. Now what we'll do is, suppose we write here a function called get user. Get user already we have written. get company is suppose one function, get company. Similar way, assume we have one more company, one more function called get product, get product. So total how many function we got? Three function. Now this three function can bring the data from anywhere. After that, if you do here this dot get company, then call here this dot get product. Now what will happen is this user function is getting the data, get user function is getting the data from one API and given to whom? A state. To which variable? API data. Get company will call, it will bring the data from a state, it will give to someone else under the state only. Get product will come, it will also bring the data from API and it will give to whom? Someone else under the state. So overall, multiple function also we can call under the component date mount. Now suppose for example, if I go here under the get company, if I come, instead of writing as this URL, if I write here call company.json and this line I'm commenting, and here if I do like this, company list colon this company array. So what it represent? It represent like there should be a file called company.json. Inside some data will be there. That data will come, and here company list, what is that? Inside the state there should be a variable called company list. Then whichever the data is coming from this JSON file, it will go to where? Company list. And this get company will call when? Component did mount on page load. So similar to that, then this question is where this file will be, where the component company.json file we have to create, in which folder? Company.json file will be under which folder? Whatever the file you are creating, JavaScript file, all the JavaScript file will execute under the public folder. Okay, it is where is the index.html file? Index.html file is under the public folder. All the component will send the data to index.html. So at this place, when I'm writing company.js, it is not pointing to your src folder. It is pointing to your public folder. Okay, the company.json file must be under the public folder. It should not be under the src folder. From src folder, it will not read it. It will read from the company public folder.
Automatically find their path or like
No, automatically where is the concept to find automatically path? This file execution will happen the first time when we have gone through. I have guided, from the JS src folder, it will go to the index.html, index.js. Index.js will send to where? Index.html in which folder? Public folder. Where is the ID? HTML is where? HTML is under the src public folder. Root ID is where? Root ID is written under the public folder. So this code, whatever is there, your file is under this folder, but execution will not happen in this folder. At the time of execution, it will be point to the public folder directly. Once you create the build, you will not find the src folder. You will find the folder called public folder. Okay. So what is the requirement? Requirement is now we have read one file. We have read one file from where? We have read one file from the URL, right? Similar way. Okay, this company I am going to comment here. Let me remove this. Okay, let me remove this. No need to be more confused. At this place, get company function we have. Suppose if I write here call get comment. We can write here call get car. Okay, so now you have 3 URL. One URL you have here already. 2 more URL I'll give you. One is called get comment, another one is called get car. Get comment and get car. This 3 URL is ready now. This 3 URL came to your chat. This 3 URL came to your chat. Okay, so you have to create a component. In that, what has to be done? Comment also should display, car also display, and user also should display. And what should be the structure? The structure is like this. Then you will ask, how can I call the multiple component? No problem, I have written here. Component did mount, one we are calling get user. You can call one more get comment and get car. For comment there will be separate array, and for car there will be separate array. Now after that, what will be the structure? Structure will be something like this. Class 2 is ready. Class 3 is your homework. Let me design the photo. You are going to work. Okay, so one section, this is for the user. One section for the user list. You will print under the table. Second section is a car list. You will print using the table. Third section, comment list. You will print using the table. Now for all 3, I'll create the separate block. This block is for the car list, and below one block I'll create that will be for the user list. Okay, so how many API will call? 3 API. The first API, user will come to the user. In tabular format, you will display name, mobile, city, whichever the records are there. In the car, whichever the records are there, you will print here. And under the comment list, whichever the records are there, you will print here. The component name will be called class 3.js. Under that, 3 API call will happen. Component did mount you will use. Set state you will follow, and after that, hope you can do. Okay, so 3 URL I have sent in the chat. Right, receive that. Okay, after doing that, after completion of the page, 87924-62607 is in WhatsApp. Send a screenshot. Send a screen photo. How better you can design is your wish. It is Bootstrap already integrated. You can utilize the Bootstrap functionality and design a better page, and then send me the photo. I guess today is the Friday, or which day is it? Okay, today is the Friday. So tomorrow morning we'll log in as usual, 8 o'clock for the project time, project plus. Link I have sent in the chat. फोटो ले लो आप, फोटो खींच लो आप. JSONplaceholder.com inside. You have already used under the functional component. JSON placeholder tpcode.com/users comment, and then One is the last one is a different one. Okay, I will send this one in your group chat. You can use it from there also. That is called 8fab. I can favorite. Look like possible
Yes.
or difficult? Try कीजिए. If you try, then only it will be possible. If you not try, definitely it will be not possible. So I have sent the 4-5 URL photo in your chat, WhatsApp group. You can use from there. Tomorrow we'll be seeing some more feature of, no, tomorrow we have that morning class, right?